Hey guys, Thomas Sicily Jr. here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review Watch If You Dare. Now, the reason why I'm reviewing a movie like this is because I came across it. It's a much smaller film, and I don't think a lot of bigger reviewers are going to be reviewing things like this. They're going to focus on the bigger releases, the bigger movies to get those views. So that's why I exist, to, from time to time, find the smaller movies, and in fact, this is an anthology of movies, plural. And before I can begin my movie review, I will say that if you are squeamish, then maybe perhaps you might want to avoid this, as it does pertain to a lot of cutting of the skin and a lot of gross close up, like, dismemberment type of stuff going on. There's a lot going on in these. I think it was four little mini films within this anthology. So our first little movie begins with this woman named Claire going to get her hair done. And Mandy, who is a blonde, goes to visit Claire, who does the hair. And so she's doing the hair, that being Claire, and she's discussing that being Mandy about this party. And it shows a montage of Mandy getting a little tipsy as the hair is getting done, and getting more and more drunk as the time passes on. Eventually, she does pass out, and from this point on, Claire takes up a bunch of tools and starts to cut across the head. Now, I would think, I don't know how powerful a sedative she was given, but it must have been pretty decent considering that she got her entire top of the head scalped off. Oddly enough, just enough to live. I don't know if someone can live getting scalped like that. I think you can. It just seems very. That's a lot of potential, like, pain you would have been in if you. Anyway, getting back to what happens anyway, next is that she does eventually wake up and she sees the state she is in with a scalped head, but she was tied up as she was knocked out. So she starts to scream, and Claire tries to calm her down, but nothing seems to be working. So Mandy, getting desperate to silence her, stabs her in the head to kill her. So it cuts to her going to her place and then putting on the hair and then saying over and over again how she looks perfect, or is trying to look perfect, and then starts to cry. And that's actually the end of that anthology. It's a pretty short one. I think the rest of them are around that time frame. So we cut to a different anthology. We cut to this man in red who appears to be shopping or stealing. It was hard to tell which one he was doing since it cut away after he got to the counter. Anyways, he sees a man with a tattoo at the counter and seems to follow that guy around into this back alley. It cuts to, it shows the red hooded figure attack this tattooed man and then it cuts off to him just moving along the streets. And then eating all of his food and supplies as he makes his way home. He takes out this bloody newspaper and then he starts to cut himself. Again, more of the cutting of parts. And he starts to peel off the part near his chest, the upper, like his up right above, like where your heart would be. And he then proceeds to stitch on the tattoo that he covered up and needles himself over it. So it cuts to him lying on a bed and then getting a pain in his leg, which is also bandaged to indicate that this isn't the first time he has done this. So he takes the leg bandage off to, of course, reveal another tattoo from another person. And the stitches are becoming bad, and there's, again, if you are not comfortable with it, there is a hint of pus that comes out. Um, so it cuts to the him getting kicked out of the tattoo shop. I'm assuming that is the main reason why he's even proceeding to, besides not being in a perfect mental state. Uh, he seems to have a indication to want to get these tattoos. Nonetheless, he starts to hear sirens pass by and he starts to freak out. So he's still getting the pain from the leg one, and it cuts to him on the run, and then we see him arrive back at the home with a new tattoo, and he takes off his entire lower stomach and replaces it with a skull tattoo from another person. So the sirens start to come towards his door, and then the police start to knock on the door. He proceeds to peel off the particular tattoo from his chest, hold it up as the police barge in, and that is the end. That is where this second little mini film ends. So, the next movie in the anthology is a cooking one where we meet Muller, a businessman and a chef, who are going to some cooking location that is a secret cooking competition, sort of, or a cooking, like, you talk about cooking and you eat, like, you just meet and greet and then eat. This place is called Kitchen X. So he talks over with his girlfriend, and I would put that in quotes, about this location, and she tells him that this is a very secretive thing and to just leave it between the two of them. So he promises to do so. So he heads over with the chef, who is John, and he starts to see a commercial dealing with two of the others. This dominatrix Beth and this other individual who was like the person, the slave, I suppose. So anyways, he eventually heads over to where this party is and actually meets the dominatrix Beth lady and some of the other chefs as well. And he meets this older lady, and he's just getting comfortable, trying to talk out these little awkward moments that he's having. So these fancy people are talking about the food to pass the time, and the courses are set out. So they begin to eat, and Muller starts to talk about, or the party around him starts to talk about eating kidney, and this starts to agitate Muller, both because of the drinks he's been having and just talking about a particular substance. So he starts to feel sick, and then he feels lightheaded and passes out. When he awakes, he ends up inside a tub with the chef on top, outside the tub, and this other lady injects him. This causes Muller to scream out, and everyone's all laughing at him and saying that essentially he's on the menu. So as time is passing on, this blogger chick and this other black-haired girl, or woman, I should say, um, kind of discuss things as they are talking over a now unconscious Muller. And the two ladies, I don't know if they were accidentally dropped a beaker or they purposely dropped a beaker, whichever one uh, allows him to get that as an item later on. One of the other cooks with this heavy mustache starts to hack up his fingers, and the main chef returns. But Muller manages to stab the main chef, the one that brought him there, with that little incubator that I told that or the thing that the two ladies dropped in there. He ends up like stabbing the chef. So the others tried to talk him down, and Muller, as the others are talking about, Muller covers himself, getting out of that tub, and he heads into the kitchen, seeing his various parts of his body that they have used, fingers, like the left side of his, or the right side of his leg, one of his legs, like the side of his stomach. Anyways, as he proceeds to see the phone, he calls Hannah, he just hears the phone ringing and then picks up to hear Hannah's voice, and then he overhears her say something that suggests that she is also a part of this, and he is surprised. And then Muller proceeds to attack that slave guy, Greg, who ended up in the same room, taking out his eye with one of those, like, quarks, I think it is. I think that's what he used. Like, the sharp end of, like, I'm sorry, I don't know, like, that specific kitchen utensil. I don't know if it was a cork. I feel it. I think it's, like, one of those things to remove, a drink, like a champagne thing, cork remover. I don't know. Anyway, nonetheless, he takes him out, and then he attacks, preceding one of the black-haired lady who's like trying to calm him down, or I think it was actually the dominatrix that was trying to calm him down, and then he stabbed her as well. So the remaining chefs arrive in the same room. They're trying to calm him down. Oh no, it was the black lady first. The black-haired lady, sorry. And then the dominatrix, Beth, tries to calm him down, and then he stabs her. And after she gets killed, he proceeds to get shot in the back by Hannah, who is there. I do admit that was a bit weird. I assumed, since the call came to that house, I first assumed that she was just far away, but I don't know why she would also be there. Anyway, the movie, that movie does end with him getting cornered by the rest of the people who are chopping at the bit, the remaining chefs, that it being. So, we now move on to the next anthology, which is now the last anthology in the set. So we meet this man with an eye patch, a cop named Burton, and two other individuals who are trying to help RJ. And the eye-patched man has a very interesting name that I caught, Snake Plissken, a reference to Metal Gear. Or Escape from New York, if you're thinking of the movie version. Also of the name Snake Plissken. Anyways, so these four men bring over this fifth guy named RJ, And one of the four men is this like doctor slash psychologist type of character, and he says that RJ needs to essentially confront the story that happened to him. And as he goes inside this house, he proceeds to talk about what happened 7 years ago with his sibling getting his genitalia snatched away by some sort of creature. So RJ is searching around the house while the four of them are waiting outside. And the psychologist mentions a knob goblin. And RJ proceeds to drop his trousers and try to call out this creature. Nonetheless, a actual yellow creature does appear. It's like a little lizard, like not sophisticatedly designed snake-like creature with a big mouth and large teeth. And nonetheless, it does proceed to essentially jump on him and attack in the same area, biting off his genitalia. And the four men look inside in absolute horror, only seeing the body and not the actual creature which did this. And that was actually probably the shortest of the anthology. And those were I believe that was four that I covered right there of movies within this anthology. So I guess I'll give each one a sort of separate score, which is a little unorthodox, but they are technically separate movies. I think I've actually liked them in the order that they were showed in. I did think that the first one was probably the most interesting. If I could compare it to something, I would say it did kind of slightly remind me of, can't remember the movie, but it was the one where it's the killer barbershop and Johnny Depp plays the barbershop, Sweeney Todd, that was it, Sweeney Todd, but instead of the facial hair and the neck cutting, it's the scalp, and it's only one person and no singing. I did enjoy that one the most. I think I could have enjoyed seeing more of that, essentially going down. The second one was also pretty interesting. Again, I think there was a bit there as well. A bit of reasoning behind why this troubled man was doing the things he was doing. The third one with the businessmen in the kitchen, I did feel like the ending was a little bit weird, even though, with just that little one part with the Hannah being already there. I think that was like the only thing that caught me off guard, in not like a good way, but more of a questioning, like the logistics of why that would be that way. Anyways, then there's the fourth one, which was again the shortest one, and then I think that one kind of came across more silly because of the creature's design, unfortunately. And yeah, hearing the name Snake Plissken is a little bit distracting as well, because that already kind of has that annotation of being related to Metal Gear or Escape from New York. It's either going to be one of those two that's going to be recognized, probably more. But yeah, that one was short. I think what could have helped that movie better was, if they wanted to increase the length, when the psychologist slash the guy that essentially sent him in there, as he was talking, it probably would have been a bit more beneficial to have some sort of flashback and actually cut between the flashback and the current stuff happening. And within the flashback, you get to see what he was seeing before as a kid with his brother, and then have that attack happen as the use, just to build up a bit more time, because again, that one was the shortest of the four movies. Just little tip. I don't know if the people who made any of these would watch this review. But anyways, those are my thoughts, and I did say I would give a overall score. I suppose I'd give an overall score. As an anthology overall, I would give it a 7 out of 10. I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed myself. Or a 6 out of 10. I think I would drop it only on the basis on the last two are just they just needed a bit of touching up. But I do think there's a lot of promise here for these smaller movies. And again, I think if I ever do come across more smaller movies or anthology movies or movies made by very clearly smaller groups of people, I'm definitely going to try to find more of these because, quite frankly, I don't think there are enough content creators here on YouTube giving these movies the type of chance they deserve, just like smaller content creators aren't getting our due justice. So I want to do a justice for the movies that are coming out by these smaller individuals. I want to start to make a difference here on YouTube. And if that means if I'm reviewing other things that are smaller, then so be it. That's fine by me. So that was Watch If You Dare. If you do find yourself, you know, finding the movie, I would say check it out and support these people. Give them a chance. And now it's my review. So if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out that link in the description. I head you over to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye.